Good morning. Welcome to the Finance Committee budget hearings. Alderwoman Finlayson is here. Alderman Payon will not be able to join us today. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Today we have Parks and Recs and the Office of Law on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the agenda as written.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from yesterday.
I will move approval of the minutes from yesterday.
And I will second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Before we launch into the agenda, we're having some discussion about the schedule for the Finance Committee, and I'll let you speak for yourself, but Alderwoman Finlayson was pointing out that we're really cramming in a lot of things, and so we may want to reshuffle the agenda a little bit, and we have time to do that and get notification out. Do you want me to continue, Sheila, or do you want to speak for yourself?
I'm quite capable of speaking for myself.
I thought so.
My concern is that we wanted to give the full council, an opportunity to ask questions and even to present for discussion amendments. And so by adding a Finance Committee meeting in the evening on Tuesday, what's that, the 28th, would mean that we have two meetings that day. And I think 27th to have, the morning meeting on Monday, the evening council meeting, and then a morning finance, the evening finance on Tuesday, morning finance on Wednesday. I just think it's excessive. It's excessive for us and it's excessive for staff. So I think that we may be able to consolidate or at least shift down what's presently on this agenda for the 27th, which is the fact, affordability, debt affordability, the CIP review, and move that to the next day so that we will only have one meeting on Tuesday. And we said we would start at 6 o'clock on Tuesday and go for 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it took. So that's my proposal. I think I want it to be fair to everybody. So
David, that means we're going to have to quickly, if we do this, we're going to have to quickly tell the fact that we're shifting from Tuesday to Wednesday. I'm not sure everyone was going to be coming Tuesday morning anyway, but that's fine with me. I think, Takia, we have more than enough time to get out notification of this schedule change. Is that not correct? So we will not have a meeting Tuesday morning, the 27th. The schedule for Tuesday will shift to Wednesday morning. And then are we shifting the community grants discussion from Wednesday morning to Thursday morning?
Well, Mr. Chair, usually we get one meeting to receive the community grant recommendations, and then another meeting where we actually discuss and make some decisions about those things. So I think we might still be able to, be given the community grants. I know we got it by email or we got some discussion about it, but I think we could, in essence, receive the committee's recommendations on that same day, and then we could deliberate the following day.
Okay, that makes sense. So we'll just move what was scheduled for Tuesday morning to Wednesday morning and also have the community grants Wednesday morning. Okay. Maybe we should just put that in the form of a motion and then we can vote on it and get into the meetings. How's that?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would move that we move from the current schedule for Wednesday, the 27th. It was that Tuesday, the 27th.
Tuesday.
We move Tuesday's schedule to Thursday, and Thursday's schedule
stays
to the 29th to Wednesday scheduled to Thursday. It's just too confusing because my schedule doesn't have days on it.
Right.
Anyway, we shift everybody down from 27th.
I thought we were leaving community grants on the 28th. We're just shifting the morning meeting agenda of debt affordability, which we've already heard, and the capital budget and CIP, which will be a big review, but then we'll just receive the community grant schedule and get a brief explanation, probably from Lynn, I'm assuming. And then we can take up community grants as part of our deliberation.
Okay, so that's what I was saying. So we will receive community grants on Wednesday as scheduled, but we will deliberate on Thursday on those grants.
Right.
So Lynn, Ms. Farrell, we would need to have on Wednesday.
Right. And then we need to have the schedule reflect that there's a 6 o'clock in the evening meeting on the 27th.
Yes. So all of that is my motion.
All right. I second it. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Sorry, Mr. Gerald.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that on Tuesday, we also had scheduled to have David Hyder, our rates consultant, come in to talk about the enterprise fund rate increases. So we'll just bump him back a day as well to the Wednesday meeting.
All right. Great. Okay. All right. So all in favor of the amended agenda motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Takia, were we clear enough? Okay, and then you'll promulgate that new schedule for us, and I guess it gets posted in whatever media. All right, so thank you. And now we go on. The next item on the agenda is the presentation from Recreation and Parks. So, Jennifer, are you doing who's kicking off the presentation?
I would imagine Archie is.
Okay.
While they're doing that, Mr. Chair, could I ask a question about this budget?
Certainly.
Jody, why, unlike other departments, is the transportation budget broken into several like different revenue sources? Everything is split up, like.
It's an enterprise fund.
Can I ask what you're looking at when you're asking that question?
Well, now I got to find the page, but I took a note of it yesterday. That's what I'm looking for. One second.
They have, transportation fund has different divisions within it. One is the administrative division, which is just their administrative employees. They have a grants division that handles all of its grants. They have a operations division. I call it operations. It's where the bus operations are run out of. And they have a maintenance division. And then there's a small grouping.
This department, Parks and Recs.
Oh, you said transportation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So transportation, Rec and Parks has many orgs within its department, meaning they've broken themselves down into divisions based on the function of that division. Most of our departments don't have divisions. We have more divisions like that in the enterprise funds, but the Rec and Parks, Public Works has several divisions as well, if you'll notice. Public Works has admin, it has streets, snow, that kind of thing. And Rec and Parks is also using the system, the Munis system, to use different orgs based on the functions. So they're different staff are on today because they head up those different divisions. For instance, the pool operations are separate from the operations of the Stanton Center because it's really different activities.
Most departments have disaggregated budgets. Police does.
Police used to have a lot of orgs, but they consolidated their stuff down into one general fund org. They used to have a lot of orgs as well. And so did fire had additional orgs, but they've consolidated down into one org. Now, when I say org, I mean organization number within the Munis system.
Right. All right. Mr. Trader, can you please give us your presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. First thing I'd like to do is to bring to your attention the picture that's on the front cover of the presentation. I think that it capsulizes what recreation is all about, especially in a pool setting. We can move to the next page. Goal 1, to promote healthy lifestyles by delivering quality, diverse, and inclusive programming. The objective is to add additional programs, give surveys to participants to understand what they're thinking about, what they're interested in, and create inclusive programming. The benchmark for this is that we have given surveys to the public. We do have an understanding of what they're interested in. We have developed new outdoor youth programming, something that we had not done before because of COVID. I think that, we all understood that outdoor programming was essential, but we should have been doing that in the first place. But here we are. And we're also trying to create some aquatics inclusive programming, like swimming lessons for the physically and emotionally challenged. And also, we're going to program and develop some indoor wheelchair basketball. Next slide, please. Okay. Goal number 3, deliver recreation and park services in a cost-effective way. The recreation department, I mean, to be candid, we work on a very small budget, considering the vast responsibilities and the various divisions that Jody had referred to earlier. We have a lot of different capacities. We have sports, we have sports recreation, we have before and after care, we have out of school, and with COVID, now we have in-school programming with e-learning, and we have out of school programming as in summer camps. So we work on a very small budget from the start. So I think that helps us, to save money with the city. Also, we seek partnerships in the objective to goal 3. We seek partnerships with sports organizations, and what this does, it saves the city money by partnering with these various sports organizations, because they get to deliver the services directly to the participants for little of no money. I'm speaking in terms of what it is saving us, but a lot of these situations also it saves the money, the expenditures for different families and children. The benchmark for that is that we do give scholarships. Speaking about the public and how they can receive services, for a reasonable cost, and the class and submitted the class and camps just cut a $13,400 from their budget. Goal number 4, establish newly.
Mr. Trader, would you entertain questions as we go along?
Of course.
All right, thank you. I know this may have been an invited question, but I'm hoping that we don't have to cut the scholarships. That's what I think was one of the primary purposes of PIP and all of these programs was to make them available to people who didn't necessarily have the means to take advantage. So I don't know, I'll seek input from my three colleagues in this meeting, but, and of course, the city manager, but I would really be very uncomfortable with that size cut and where we know they're going to. So I don't know, Alderwoman Finlayson, help me out here.
Before you go on, Alderwoman Finlayson, let me be very clear. That 13,400 was a cut from a line item at the scholarships.
Okay.
So that means you were able to provide scholarships. And I guess I was going to ask if the reduction in scholarships had to do with the reduction of service because of COVID. So did scholarships go unutilized because the rec center was closed?
Absolutely. I mean, we did not provide programming. We did not provide many services based on participation, youth and adults. Our adult programs were actually omitted, and our youth programs were omitted due to COVID.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought we were taking a cut. Okay, I'm relieved. Thank you.
That's what it looks. That's what it looks like in the presentation. That there was a $13,000 cut to scholarships, but those were unused funds. Is that correct, Mr. Trader?
The funds, we don't actually have a number for scholarships. We don't have an amount for the actual scholarships. The 13,400 was the total reduction on the budget for camps and classes.
Okay.
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 And that was a total of drug background tests, rec programs, field trips, instructors, so on and so forth. That was the total cut for that division, if you will.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And since you mentioned scholarships, it's a very important subject. There's no question about it. The dichotomy that exists in Annapolis can be really realized in recreation services. You have people who can afford, you have people that cannot afford, and then you have people in between living paycheck to paycheck that provide opportunities for their children. What is needed in recreation and parks is for the advisory board to create a Friends of Organization committee, which is attached to the advisory board with the sole purpose of raising funds for scholarships. And that's what we're working on.
Okay, I guess with the permission of my colleagues, I'd like to bookmark this. I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make these services available to the entire population. So, but I think I understand now that it just freaked me out that we were taking that big a hit in scholarships, and I certainly wouldn't want to support that.
Yeah.
Jody, please.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify with Director Trader. In the FY22 budget request, did you include funding for scholarships? And if so, how much?
No, we did not. And we as long as I've been director, it has never happened.
Well, you have here with the benchmark, you said scholarships provided. How are those being funded? Or are you just giving people free memberships?
We're just giving people free memberships and free participation. It's been going on since Leanne Plummer was director.
Okay. So what you're saying, we don't need to add funding to the budget to do this. You just allow a certain number of people to have a membership without paying.
Look, in reality, the most sufficient way to do this is to pay for scholarships with real money. It has never been done to this point. Like I said, and I'm glad that you want to benchmark this so that we can further discuss this and make a difference in actual cash funding for scholarships.
Well,
Okay, okay. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Jody. You're muted.
I'm
Oh,
done.
maybe-
I was done. I started to say something, but I think we can take this up in a more specific discussion later, but you probably have a better question.
I saw that Jennifer had her hand up.
Yes, I coordinate the scholarships for the department. And we, as Mr. Trader had mentioned, that no, we do not have specific funds for it. However, we do throughout the year, in a normal year, we do fundraising. And those fundraising funds just go back into the general fund. So even though we are providing those free services for our community, we are raising a little bit of money that go back into the general fund.
So is the implication of that we should not go to the general fund? We should keep it in a separate accounting format for scholarships?
Absolutely. And I sort of keep a pretend spreadsheet as if I had, it's sort of my wish list spreadsheet, but as if I had those funds and any funds coming in to scholarship and then how much we give out. And that's the way that I've been managing it for about, I'd have to say for about close to 10 years.
Okay, Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and maybe we're kind of jumping the gun a bit, but that's a terrible analogy to use. I assume later on when we look at revenue generated, there should be a crosswalk to match up losses with those scholarship amounts. Is that making sense? At some point, we should see a reduction in revenue because of the scholarships.
That's reasonable.
And just to give you a ballpark, in the past, we probably did about $18,000 to $20,000. Just to give you a ballpark.
I remember last year, Ms. Jennings, when you shared with us, because we were sharing our concerns about the low revenue or the lost revenue, and you reminded us that what comes out of that revenue pot are all of the giveaways that we have, scholarships being one of those. So I guess at some point we're going to have some opportunity to rectify, scholarships as opposed to revenues that we've actually generated.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic, because then it would really give us a better idea of really how we are operating as well.
Okay, and I think that's what our Director Trader was getting to.
Yes.
Also.
Yes, Ms. Finlayson, are you finished, or you have anything else to add?
I am finished.
Okay, thank you. Well, another thing, what I was really trying to get to is that the perfect example for how this is supposed to be done happens at the Stanton Community Center every year with the Friends of the Stanton Center Youth Programs, who raise, Katie, how much do they raise for summer camp registration for 50, close to 50 students?
Close to 50 students every year, yes, paid in full.
And that translates into how much money, just generally, approximately?
Generally, I'm still going to calculate this. Hold on. So if we're doing generally...
So $193?
Yeah, so about $12,000, $13,000, 10 to 13, depending on, well, they're all residents. So about a little over $10,000, between 10 and 12.
So that's the perfect way that the scholarship funds should be funded. This has been happening for the last 3 or 4 years, and we've got to get that started. But I think the genesis for that has to begin with the advisory board, and then that money goes into the Annapolis Community Foundation, which will hold the money in the interim between the organization getting their own 501c3, so they can actually cut checks in their own account with the Annapolis Community Foundation and pay for any type of registration or participation at the rec center or the department in general.
So in essence, you're saying that city's general funds make no contribution to scholarships.
If you remember, Alderman Finlayson, when Teresa came on board as city manager, she actually ended that practice of any foundation type of money, any donation type money. She eliminated those accounts, and all monies has to be put into a separate non-city account in order to be effective for any type of program. Because you remember, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you remember, we had the Stanton Community Center donation account within the city. And then we could provide opportunities for children through that account. These were donated monies, but Teresa ended that practice, which I think is a good practice. It was good for her to do that because it gives more flexibility to a scholarship program.
Director,
well, I guess.
Oh, sorry.
I guess my concern then is liability. We are collecting money in the name of the city for our scholarship program or our camp program, but the money goes into another account outside of the city where we have no control over. And what I was really getting to initially before that point was, if for some reason the Friends of the Stanton Center has a bad year, then there's no scholarship opportunities. So we're relying totally on our community supporters to fund our scholarships. So we really can't say that we pay for scholarships because we don't.
Right.
We do. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Katie Owings. We also host events throughout the year where, although that money does go into the general fund, we could also put that money earned if we had a Friends of directly back in. For example, the adult Easter egg hunt, when we did the dog days of summer, those types of things, that money, we have specific events that we run specifically for that scholarship program as well.
Okay.
Let's let the finance director get in here before she bursts.
Yes. So the reason this has changed is because we want, if people are making donations to an organization to provide scholarships, they're likely going to want to be able to deduct that for tax purposes. You cannot deduct it if it's coming to the city. You can deduct it if it goes to a 501c3 organization and they handle the disbursement of those monies to the city in order that these kids can go to the camps and classes, et cetera, whatever purpose they use it for. They write a check to the city of Annapolis so that this person can attend this camp. And it's handled separately from us. The city employee should not be soliciting donations from people. That is the job of a C3. If we are having events during the year that raise money, those funds should go to the general fund and not into any scholarship fund. If the Friends of the Stanton Center have a program and raise money, they put it into their own books and accounts, and they can give it to the city in any way, shape, or form they want to. They're operating separately as a C3 organization. That is why we didn't, the city employees should not be soliciting donations for activities. There are different ways to provide what we're calling scholarships. We can say the city will do free memberships for X number of people and have some kind of way of deciding that. But the the act of collecting the cash and depositing it and using it for this purpose should not be a function of the city.
And I agree, Jody, because that is the whole essence of a 501c3 organization,
Right.
who can write a check for a specific registration for a particular program for a child. And another characteristic of donors today, they want to know exactly where their money is going to. You know, they don't want to dump money into a general fund and really don't know how it's being spent.
Right.
So that's another characteristic.
And we are funded by the citizens of Annapolis. And like I said, we should not be in the act of soliciting donations for our activities. Like I said, if you have it in a separate organization, I'm glad that you're waiting till somebody has a C3 status in order to start collecting donations on your behalf. And that foundation could do it for scholarships. They could use it to do some kind of equipment purchase if they wanted to purchase more, balls, paddles, whatever you're using, that kind of thing. But that's their decision, and their board decides the use. And at these functions that you have, if your Friends of Stanton Center want to set up some kind of donation place where people can add to their coffers, they should be handling that money, not us. We should not be touching it. It should be picked up by them, only accessible by them, and they write the checks to the city.
Yes.
I just wanted, because it started to go into, the reason I wanted to interrupt is because it started to go into all different directions on how we could handle this. There are ways to handle it that will satisfy both parties, the city, the communities, and the foundations. It's just we want to keep the money collection and payments to the city separate through a C3 organization.
And that's why we need a Pip Moyer Recreation Center, friends of.
And I don't disagree with that, but we should make sure that they have a valid C3 status. That requires them to create bylaws and procedures that they're going to follow in the collection and disbursement of those monies, and it puts better control around it, and it makes it tax deductible, because it won't be tax deductible until it goes to a valid C3 organization.
Okay, great. I'll be having a meeting with the Friends of the Stanton Community Center Youth Programs in a couple of weeks in preparation for this upcoming summer camp, and I'm going to inform you and David of the particulars that comes out of that meeting.
So I guess I want to put on the parking lot, Takia. I want to make sure I understand how we're accounting, just not charging for a membership. Seems like it's, and even Jennifer said, it's a pretend spreadsheet. I'd like to be a little more formal than that, but also I had all along had the feeling that the city was budgeting, earmarking a certain amount for scholarships, and it doesn't sound like that's happening. And I bet you any amount of money my colleagues on the council would all want there to be sure that we're getting scholarships. We need to determine the amount and the qualifications. So yes, Director Dickinson.
I want to say that may have been going on as a part of the revolving fund accounts, which were never budgeted. They were just kind of off, we put aside some monies over here and say we're going to spend this amount on scholarships, and then we track the spending in those accounts, but we have closed those down because we weren't budgeting them. We've moved all that activity into the general fund. Yeah. So, there are different ways to do it, but we all have to kind of get together on this and decide to make sure it's done appropriately. That we're not, I think before we were collecting money, the city employees were collecting money on behalf of the separate organization for them and depositing it and kind of touching their funds. So that's what we have to separate that activity.
The overall point is, and I'm sure some of the private recreational groups provide help too, but this is a city function, and part of the city's responsibility is to make services available to the entire population, not just the population that can afford it. So I want to make sure that we are locked in to be able to do that. And
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry for this interruption. Oh, Alderman Gay, but we do need to let Director Trader get back to it.
Well, that's my point. I'm interested in this budget, so I have a request that they be brought to our meeting next Tuesday night, because at this rate, I don't think I'm going to get to answer any of my questions. So please take that into consideration.
All right, we may have to have another, we're going to have a big meeting Tuesday with just police, fire, and public works. So maybe there's, maybe we'll have to schedule another evening meeting at some point. But a very important point, and Dr. Trader, I want to thank you for including this in your remarks. I hope you get the sense that we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing here. But let's let you continue with your presentation.
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Alderman Paone. Welcome aboard.
I've been here for like 20 minutes and had my hand up for 15 of those 20. Look, this isn't without precedent. We did this before with the fireworks fund. We converted it to a 501c3. And actually, I don't know if it was a C3 or not, but be that as it may, it takes a little bit of time, but it's not difficult. Make sure we put an attorney on this board and give it to her, to him to do. I think that'll take care of the problem. And with regard to the scholarships, you know, we asked when the Pip Moyer Center opened, we were pretty careful in making sure that we would have scholarships every year without regard to any foundation. Although I think the foundation's a great idea. I mean, I think we need to do that. But I was under the impression that contained in the city budget somewhere, somehow, was a certain number of scholarships. And I still think we ought to have a handful of those. I don't really know what happened with that. By the way, I'm going to be kind of in and out of this. We're leaving about 1:30 or so this afternoon, but I've got a number of errands number of things to take care of. So I'm going to be in and out of this meeting. I'll try to be here as long as I can.
All right. Well, thank you, Director Dickinson, and then we really do need to
Yeah. He said that they didn't do away with it, which is what she was explaining earlier. Is that she sets aside a certain amount for free memberships, and she's tracking that manually herself. And so that we just need to find a better way to do it. And if you want to set aside funds to every year or to add to some kind of fund, we can do that from an accounting standpoint, but it'll take some thinking on where we want to put it, but we have to budget for it. We have to budget for it.
Okay, I agree. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Trader. I think this was a worthwhile digression, but let's let you proceed with your presentation.
I agree with that. Goal number 4, establish the newly reconstructed tennis courts and pickleball courts at Truxton Park as a reputable multi-purpose facility in Anne Arundel County. Objective: research best practices, develop strategies to maximize use by recreational players, tennis organizations, diverse communities, and pickleball organizations. Also, increase strategies to increase tennis tournaments and pickleball tournaments. As we speak, the Tennis Alliance, which was a relatively new organization when you look at the Annapolis Tennis School and the Anne Arundel County USTA organization. In fact, I was on the Tennis Alliance committee to build an indoor tennis facility in Millersville for a while. They have, as the mayor had indicated to me, had won a scholarship from the USTA, the national organization, and they are conducting a tennis clinic lessons to hacker children. So these are the type of things that we want to really go after, develop, and implement at our new facility, which is a real soon to be completed, hopefully in May. So it's these are some of the things that we want to do in that facility. So The benchmark, as I previously mentioned, we have partnerships with these various organizations, and that can contribute to that facility and programming in that facility. Long-term goals implement inclusive seasonal programming, research. Number 2 goal in long-term, select certain Maryland recreation and parks and national recreation and parks initiatives to implement departmentally. One example is that our Kids Day in the Park is a National Park Trust registered program in which we had registered for. We've only been able to have it one time in the last 3 years. I believe that we have been registered because of inclement weather one time, and then COVID came. But the one time that we did have it, it was a fantastic program. It was a one-day outdoor program in which we had activities, programs, games all over Truxton Park, and that's an example of how we really want to open up our practice of programming and best programming to the public. Okay, next. Okay, goal 5, long term. Oh no, this is performance measures. We want to increase the families and memberships, provide quality, diverse programming, create new and eclectic marketing strategies to reach diverse populations. Marketing, most people don't realize, is really our bread and butter in the recreation business. It's imperative that we understand our target market, our full range of target markets, from the hacker community to highly educated, wealthy people, to so-called all the demographics of everybody that is in Annapolis. Because one of the unique things about Annapolis is that we cover every gamut of demographics that you can imagine. So it's important that we know how to reach each group. That's fine. Number 6, implement youth environmental programs. It is our goal to create yet another division, and I think it's appropriate here in Annapolis that we provide an environmental division within our recreation department. To teach children and give them environmental educations in various aspects of the environment. And not only in terms of education, but just getting them out and doing things and participating in various activities. So we've pursued various partnerships with county and countywide environmental organizations. We've developed and implemented on-campus at Truxton Park, Waterworks Park, and after school and out of school programs. We intend to create an environmental segment to our summer camps as well. Next, number 3. This is long-term continue. Establish Waterworks Parks as an environmental education center. research best practices. I think the best way to go about this is that, and a lot of times I'm not getting solid feedback with this initiative. I think what we have to do as a recreation department is just take the bull by the horn. We have to create some type of partnership with the Smithsonian Museum or the county, Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks, who has a Jug Bay Environmental Center. I think that we'll have to partner with a lot of these organizations or even institutions to make this happen. Now, the building itself, if we can get that renovated by some means and have that building shared in an environmental capacity, I think we would be well on our way, because the Waterworks Park actually is already made to order, if you will, for great programming in terms of environmental education. I mean, right now, last summer we had a lot of fishing activities through summer camp. Individual people of the public, they use it. I'm starting to get phone calls from the educational system, from the school system, and teachers are actually wanting to have classes there. So I think it's important that we have some type of organized structure in place to receive these various organizations, individuals who want to use the facility at Waterworks Park in an environmental way. Number 7, construct this state-of-the-art outdoor fitness court. I'm not going to belabor this. I've been trying to do this for a while, but COVID once again interfered with so many things. But I'm letting you know now that I'm going to revisit this, and I think that this is a standard apparatus in outdoor parks throughout the nation, and I'm going to continue to pursue this. Number 8, improve the Stanton Center infrastructure. Seek community block grants, funding, and other funding. As you know, as a benchmark, we have received $500,000 from the state. There has been a lot of work done in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, but there's a lot of work that has to be done at the Stanton Community Center. Recently, the roof has been patched, but the entire roof needs to be replaced for sure.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Of course.
Mr. Trader, Director Trader, last year, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, we approved an additional, I think it was $30,000, maybe that was in the CIP, for, I think we were adding a restroom and doing some work around the Stanton Center. Has that work been completed?
No, it has not been. That's going to take a lot of planning to do that, and it's going to take more than $30,000.
If I could just chime in on this. So what was funded last year for the $30,000 was a condition assessment for Stanton Center, so that we would have a path going forward to do all the work that Archie was just talking about. So that assessment has been completed. There's an RFP right now to hire a design firm, an engineering firm, to do all of the construction documents to do those changes that he brought up. We also are getting additional funding. We're adding additional city funding to the CIP for FY23, but we also got some state funding to help with the Stanton Center. So we're going to move forward with the design, and then the construction projects will start after the design's complete and we put the construction out for bids.
Is the bid inclusive of the funding, the $500,000 we got from the state? I mean, is the plan in, what's the dollar value, I guess?
Yeah, so the design project will design the work for that. Yeah, the dollars that are going to be available. So we'll use a condition assessment to pick the highest priority work, get as much of that work done with the money that's available, but also add the restroom facility because that's an urgent need. So that will be done. The roof replacement will be done. There's exterior work on the masonry that needs to be done. So there's a whole laundry list of things that need to be done. Those were all prioritized by that condition assessment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
just continuing on that. If it needs to be done, can the council have a timeline on when it will be done?
Yeah, I can have Public Works prepare that and provide that to you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9. The operational budget. I'm not going to go through every line item. It's there before you. These numbers come from the finance department, and I thought it was a good idea to highlight, and so that you can see, what the budget sheet looks like, and these are all total amounts. This is not itemized, of course, because it's the different divisions. You look at the Pip Moyer Recreation Center, FY22 compared to FY21, and all the way down to parks and harbor master and so on and so forth. The 2 things that I want talked about here, though, and I would like for Jennifer Jennings to elaborate on her budget, because her budget went up. The pool budget went up 1,500%. So, and I think that she can speak to that and give justification.
Okay, so we have our pool budget, and there's a few things to keep in mind. What we tried to do this year is to put categories underneath the aquatics budgets that were always in another budget. For example, that would be the telephone, that would be.
Oops.
Whoa, what's that? Shoot.
Something's frozen.
One roof, under one umbrella, to know exactly what our operating costs were. Oh, wait, hold on.
Jen, we lost part of what you were saying. You froze.
Okay, yeah, all right. Am I better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, only happens when I'm speaking, I'll tell you. So basically we're.
On 10. Mr. Trader, is she in your building? Can she go to another room or your computer or something?
I don't know whether she's here or not.
No, I'm not. I'm at home.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did you catch that I just am trying to keep everything under one roof and have all of our operating budget? And so we can understand how much it costs us to operate versus our revenue, so we get a good understanding of operations. So that's why we added those 3 items. Second of all, we still don't have a year under our belt for the aquatic center. So we are still trying to figure ourselves out. Last year, we missed May, June, and July for operations. So that was another reason why we are up a little bit. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Let me please. The problem I'm having is these numbers are not matching at all with what we have in our budget book. They're much less. So there must be something I'm missing here. For example, in our budget book for Pip Moyer, we have a total of 779,500.
I can answer your questions.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We know we got the slides this morning and we were trying to tie them into the budget. And what these represent, first of all, they don't have any salary or benefits information in there.
Okay.
What it is totaling, I just did a test on one of the divisions, and it appears to equal what the department requested in their budget and not what we ultimately provided. I was just doing, I think, Parks Division. If you go back to the previous slide, and I added up what we have provided for the Parks Division. Non-salary and benefit line items is off by 338,400. Okay, I think, yeah, we've given the Parks Division in non-salary items 338,400, and that this number, the 314,870, agrees to what the department asked for in their budget, including overtime money, but not the salaries and benefits. So you're not going to be able to compare what you have here to what's in your budget book.
Okay.
Well, I apologize for that misclarification. Yes, this is
okay. I mean, we can try to rework this budget, this slide, and put the numbers in there to show, total. If you were trying to look at non-salary and benefits line items, we can break those out and show you what your actual numbers are and show the actual increase or decrease. You let us know what you need.
Yeah, that would be helpful because we need to know what's actually budgeted. But I think we kind of get the drift that you're showing us where you're down, where you've had cuts, and where you're up.
Yeah,
that's important.
And this was showing you what they asked for, what they had requested.
Right. Alderman Gaines, you had a.
Mr. Chair, may I ask?
Certainly.
I don't know whether you can see my hand.
Yeah.
Could I ask, what is administration? Is this not salaries in this line item for administration? If salaries, what Ms. Dickinson just said, salaries are not included.
Right. So it's contract services and supplies and capital outlay, according to the budget book, would be the non-salary items.
Okay, but does that indicate that's the admin line?
It's everything but salaries and benefits, apparently.
So I think the staff could clarify what's included in the administrative division and what is in there excluding salaries and benefits, because they do pay for the credit card fees and various things. They're going to have expenses there. So I think there's going to be items that are non-salary related in that division, if that's what you're asking about.
Yeah. My other question is, or request is, could we get a true breakdown of the pool cost, revenue, and expenses? And I know, and I'd like for it to show the fact that we opened only for half the year, and then we weren't even open for half the year because of COVID. But for the window that we had, what were the exact expenses and what was the exact revenue that was generated, and what was the percentage of usage of that facility? That's our newest amenity, and I think it's important that we keep track of these numbers so we can project what's going to be coming in the future when we're not in a pandemic. So.
Alderwoman Finlayson, I do have numbers on that if you would like, and I would have to get our expenses a little bit more because figuring out our expenses last year is a little bit off just because of when we opened the pool, Athorian had paid for us to open it. So that was like our chemicals and all that. But I've got a generalization of what what our chemicals are going to be for the season. You know, you can't completely control the weather and the heat, and the chemicals might go up and they might go down. But we did about $39,000 last year. And
I don't expect you to have it right now. I would like for you to compile that for us.
Oh, that's not a problem. I don't mind doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a generalization of the business that we did. And we had about 7,000 people coming through in that short amount of time between August 1st and October 2nd or 4th, excuse me.
And that was with reduced capacity.
Half capacity, yes.
Okay, that was not at capacity. That was reduced capacity.
Reduced capacity, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so please show that also in your documentation, and if you'll share that with everybody, that's great. Thank you.
How would you like me to get that to you? Just email it to you?
You can email it to Takia so she can send it to everyone so we can put it in our budget books.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have just a number of questions now that we've opened it up to the budget. So if you look in the underneath of pool, and I'm also using our online line item so I can pull stuff down. It's saying that landscapes and grounds is proposed $12,000 under the pool budget. And my question is that really necessary? Because I would like to move it under Stanton Center budget for food, which is only budgeted at $1,000, while the latchkey is for food is budgeted at $16,900. Understanding that they do completely different services, but I think
So, Alderman Gay, if I could ask your indulgence, I understand your questions, but we need to let Mr. Trader finish the presentation, and I would argue that the kinds of things you're talking about are for the city council deliberations, and your notion that we need to have another evening meeting, I think, as well received. But if we could let Mr. Trader finish the presentation.
So do you just want to put everything in amendment form and not ask a question and just drop 80 amendments on you? Because I could do that too.
Well, you're getting into moving things from pools to Stanton Park and things like that. We haven't even given the director a chance to give us the broad overview. I understand where you want to go, but I think we need to let the presentation get finished before we get into that.
Mr. Chair, this is Jennifer again, and I was speaking about our operating budget for the pool. And to answer Alderman Gay's question, actually, about landscaping, we have a lot of landscaping on the premises. So that's why we were asking, because it's a whole different ball game as far as taking care of the property, and that's why we asked for that amount of money.
Okay, if you look at screen 11, we look at aquatics. The aquatics FY22 operations budget adjustments. These are the adjustments that we had made for the pool itself. Now you got to keep in mind that all these different expenditures were coming from other places like parks. The parks was that landscaping line item was coming out of parks. Telephone was coming from someplace else. And even the tools and equipment, I believe, was coming out of parks as well. So what we're trying to do with this is to put it all under the pool division so that they can have oversight of their own line items. Number 12, please. Number 12, the recreation programming, summer camps. Wow, hold on. I'm gonna keep losing this. Okay, the no projected increases in supplies, the PPEs, we're gonna have to buy a lot of those. You gotta keep in mind that we will be opening full days for the summer camps. And the latchkey programs could be reinstated if school opens. And the e-learning could also be reinstated if COVID persists and hybrid becomes once again a part of the school system. If the government guidelines change, dance and fencing and boxing and all those other programming could be reinstated at the Pitt Memorial Center. A lot of it really is contingent upon COVID. But Katie, do you have anything to elaborate on that?
No, it's all dependent on COVID. We are ready to gear up to open programs as soon as we can at full capacity or half capacity, given more information from the state and guidelines from the county.
Okay, moving on to 13. This is the Stanton Center budget highlights. These are some of the things that we thought that we need to highlight. Considering the fact that the Stanton Center is drawing a lot of attention for a lot of different reasons, we want to give you some insight of what it costs to actually run the Stanton Center. Heating and electric, $32,000. Repair and maintenance, $5,000. Supplies, $1,500. Copier, $600. Custodial supplies, $5,500. Now, you from these numbers, you can see why we need the support that we're getting from the state, to just really overhaul and renovate the Stanton Community Center, which is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, well, I'm not going to make that statement because I was going to say that it's the oldest facility in the city that the city runs, but it's in actuality, it's the oldest recreation facility for sure. So we need to pay attention to that. Number 14. Continuing with the Stanton Center, custodial supplies expenditures increased about 9%, $5,000 to $5,500. Heat and electric budget increased from 28 to 32. So this is indicative of the administration really in the city council, I would say, really recognizing, that the Stanton Community Center budget needs to be increased. And we understand that the Stanton Community Center is a non-revenue-based facility. And we understand that, but we really appreciate, and I think the public really should appreciate the fact that the city understands the importance of the Stanton Center being the epicenter of not just the Clay Street community, but the city at large. And even it serves the county, quiet as it's kept. We do a lot of services that county residents actually benefit from. Building maintenance, just a few things that we want to highlight. 2 commercial appliances were replaced brand new in the kitchen, the refrigerator and the freezer. And the gymnasium was painted. The basketball court was relined, but we also understand that the replacement of that basketball court could be in line with the monies coming out of the state. So we'll hopefully that will be a part of that renovation process. 50 inadequate ceiling tiles were replaced, and all the acoustic tiles were were replaced in the gymnasium area. I don't know if everybody is very familiar with the Stanton Community Center, but these acoustics tiles are very, very important because what they do, they absorb the sound. Someone's having an event or some type of banquet, and there's music involved, or even just a basic speaker involved. These sounds bounce off cement cinder block walls. But the exception of the Stanton Center, and I've been in a lot of small recreational centers, they do not have acoustic tiles. So these were replaced and sanded down and painted. Number 15, Pit Moyer Recreation Center highlights, budget highlights, heating and gas electric, $160,000, $45,000 for the repairman, maintenance, telephone, building supplies, custodial supplies, and the copier. So this is where our budget line items are at this point for the Pit Moyer Recreation Center. 16. Pit Moyer Recreation Center continued. 7 new emergency backup lights were installed. A new dance studio floor was installed. Rodney, could you elaborate on that project? That was a huge, huge project.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Can you hear me, Rodney?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, PW stepped in and helped out with redoing the Studio B floor. The floor was bowing from the bottom. Moisture got in and ruined the floor. So PW stepped in and partnered with Recreation Parks. We absorbed the cost, partial of the cost, and got Studio B taken care of over a period of time. So it's finished.
Okay, just basic maintenance, typical maintenance of painting classrooms. They replaced the air vents, and on the roof we have our heating and air conditioning units. One was completely replaced, and the other was repaired. So keeping in mind that this building is a little over 10 years old, and we're starting to have to replace major appliances such as heating and air conditioning units in a basically a 10-year-old facility. So
Alderman Pion has had his hand up patiently. Fred.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had my hand up since he was talking about the Stanton Center. One thing you don't seem to have there, and it's a major expense, is what about salaries? I mean, we can't really judge much about how much is needed there without some type of statement on salaries, I would think.
Well, Alderman Payon, as you know, I have no oversight of salaries in the budget. I don't contribute any real requests to that category, but since you mentioned it, yes, I think a few employees and additional recreational leaders specifically would bode well with programming, and we have to go ahead.
The salaries are part of your budget, though, if they work for rec and parks. Are they not?
Yes, they are, but it's not part of my presentation because I don't make any changes or I don't make requests to that effect. Now, that has been a long-standing policy or rule. David, if you can elaborate on that, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Would you agree, Jody?
Yeah, I'll elaborate on that. So I think there's 3 regular employees, 2 are civil service, 1 may be contract at the Stanton Center. I don't know if they have, I don't have their detail up in front of me, whether they have some contractual or part-time temporary help that works in there. But we use what they have in Munis, the people that are assigned, the positions that are assigned to that division, and we create the salaries because we know what step everybody's at or what step they're going to move to the next year. And so we calculate what their salary is going to be. So for the existing employees, the existing positions, we provide that information and put it into the budget, into the table that you're seeing in the budget book. And what Director Trader is saying is that since he doesn't determine those amounts, he didn't put them in his presentation. If Alderman Payon is suggesting that they may need more people there, then when the department comes and presents their budget, they say, we think we need a position for this or for that purpose. And this is what we think it needs to be graded. And this is what it's going to cost. And they will ask for that during the budget development stage. And so that's where they would play a role in additional personnel. And then the we and the city manager and the mayor would decide whether or not we were going to put that new item in the budget, and we would provide the amount.
Okay, it just seems that he's trying to give us a budget statement regarding the Stanton Center that doesn't include salaries. And as you know, sometimes salaries are as much as 80 or 90% of the expense.
And we talked about that earlier. I don't know if you were at your computer when we talked about that. His amounts that he provided didn't have salaries and benefits in there. And it in some cases, it reflects what they asked for, not what they were provided. Some were the same, meaning we gave them exactly what they asked for. There were a couple where we rounded numbers, so their numbers are different. So you're not going to be able to agree their total amounts that they're showing on their slides to the budget tables in the budget book. And we were going to try to provide a corrected slide for that.
Okay, thank you.
And to be clear, Alderman Payon, I presume that your question pertains to, budget costs and amounts, but I'm hearing, are you saying anything regarding programs? Do you have any programmatic aspect to your question?
Well, actually, you've done a better job than most about including what programs you're covering, within the budget. It kind of drives me crazy when I hear, in general, I don't have enough information about it, and you've done a pretty good job, and I think you're to be commended for that. So I don't really have a lot of questions about programs. Thank you.
Okay, great. And just to put that in perspective, when I first got to the Stanton Center, and I remember these numbers like it was yesterday, $7,000 for recreational programming and $700 for food. That is all that we had. And I can tell you right now that programming has not de-escalated. As a result, it's actually escalated because of the volunteerism and other efforts that our employees make in trying to provide the best programming that we can. Number 17, Harbor Master. Beth is not here today to really go through this precisely. I'm just going to submit this for your read. I do know that she was trying to get a third employee, full-time employee, in which she does deserve. It's ironic that you would bring salaries and employees up, but this is timely, and I think that she needs it because there's only 2 employees there, full-time employees. That's her and her deputy. So hopefully she'll get that in the future.
It has to get through the filter of the city manager first. So
we have actually included that extra position in the budget for 22. It's not a civil service yet. It's contractual because we don't have it. Oh, no, I think we might have made it civil service. We had to figure out a title and a grade for it pretty quickly, but it is in the budget.
Right.
Okay, good. That's great.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're going to just read Harbor Master for ourselves because we're running over time, but we did have a good dialogue. Are there any closing questions from colleagues on the finance? Yes, Alderwoman Finlayson, followed by Alderwoman Tierney.
This is a question for Katie, I believe. I'm in OpenGov following all of the subdivisions within Rex and Parks. Is there a place to go where I can see all of Rex and Parks budget together? It's broken up by all of those subdivisions.
I don't have a saved view, but I can work on that for you.
Okay, that would be very helpful. And I was going to point that to Ms. Alderman Payon, because I found it very helpful. At the bottom of each of those bar graphs, it breaks it out by salaries and the like. So thank you.
It would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Trader. And your staff.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question on Latchkey. Director Trader, could you explain your objectives with the Latchkey program for this upcoming year and what specifically, how it is staffed and why there was, I have a reduction of $33,700 from last year, which is a little concerning.
And Catherine can chime in, but I think overall, COVID-19 affected our revenue in terms of latchkey. School simply wasn't open, and we cannot conduct latchkey programming unless the school is open because these programs are on site at 7 different elementary schools throughout the cities.
Oh, I'm not talking about projected. I understand why the reduction in, for fiscal year 2021. I'm just asking you to explain what your objective is in the program for this upcoming year.
Our objective is, and I'll let you chime in, Catherine, is to reinstate and restart our programming based on Anne Arundel County public school system. If they open, we're there. If they're not, we just cannot be there.
Yeah, I asked because in your presentation, you said a lot of ifs and maybe, but the budget has $435,000, 300, for it. So obviously it includes. Go ahead, Katie.
Sure. So one major point into this is where we are in COVID. We are at 7 sites, but as of right now, and I'm not sure how it's going to change, they are only allowing programs to run in buildings that have designated school-age childcare rooms. So if that sticks through the summer and into the fall, we only have 2 sites we can open. If that changes, we can open at potentially 7 sites because we are not allowed to be in the mixed use facilities as of yet. So my goal, our goal and my goal that I presented to Archie, I want to open up our largest sites first, the places we get the most revenue. And obviously, two of those 3 that are our largest revenue sites do not have designated childcare rooms. So really, it's a mixed bag of what we're going to get. We're waiting for the school board. I did make some cuts as we were asked to make cuts, going worst case scenario. But really, we're probably not going to know until August and have 3 weeks to put it all together again because of COVID.
Okay, thank you for your attention on this. Thank you.
Dr. Dickinson.
I just wanted to add that depending on what happens, we may have to revisit some of the budgets later with some adjustments upwards or downwards or move money from one account to another, depending on stuff like latchkey centers and which one's open and if they have enough funding. And that's not the only thing. Camps and classes is going to be up in the air too, because we don't know how we can hold those. And And if it opens up fully and we need to revisit it and add revenues to the budget and add expenses to the budget, we'll have to look at that mid-year.
Yeah, and also salaries wise, our directors are contractual employees that generally start July 1, which we will not probably have an answer by July 1. This last year, we did not have our full 7 directors on staff, and we may not, or we may need them. Again, it's usually last minute when we find out what the schools are going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Gay.
What 7 facilities are you at? And do the families that sign up pay to have the after in?
Yes, so let me read this so I don't have to go from memory, but we are at, let's see, Germantown Elementary, Hillsmere Elementary, West Annapolis Elementary, Mills Parole Elementary, Eastport Elementary, Georgetown East Elementary. I think that's 7. And with those,
Hillsmere?
yes, Hillsmere as well. So 5 of our 7 are Title I schools. Hillsmere and West Annapolis are not. That directs some of the food questions, the budgeting for the food. We have to provide food for those 2 sites. We do not receive free AACPS funded meals there. They don't do it in non-Title I schools.
So just so I can clarify.
And they do pay, yes. They pay a monthly, everybody pays a monthly fee for both morning and aftercare. They can do both or one or the other.
So what's the serving number or the revenue brought in from that?
So generally in past years, not in COVID years, we usually maintain between $30,000 and $35,000 of revenue a month.
Okay, so if we were to, well, if something, well, I'll get with you offline. I think I got your email and I'll shoot you.
Okay.
We'll discuss some amendments. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Is there any other input for Director Trader? If not, thank you, Director Trader, and all of the staff. We will be digesting this. It sounds like Alderman Gay has some plans for you. We'll hear about that at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you. Hey, Brian's taking care of that, so we're moving with that project.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
I was just going to say, Rodney, or Mr. Dillard and Director Trader, I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Okay. I guess you won't be late because you live right across the street.
If I do, you'll see me coming.
All right. With that, I think we're ready to move on to the Office of Law. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. Good morning, sir.
Your automatic ready-fill prescription order has been filled by your pharmacist and is available for pickup at 2601 Road.
So you recorded your presentation, so you can just push a button.
I wish.
Regarding your prescription order, please call 410-571.
I'm not sure who's controlling our presentation, but I'm not. Okay. Very good. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing the Office of Law to make a budget request presentation. Of course, the budget was submitted to the mayor and the city manager and the team. So what you will see is the request as filtered through that source. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have and to focus on, at the end, questions and our future goals for the office. Next slide, please. I'd like to start with this because it really sets the tone for what our office actually does. Many may not be familiar with our office, but it is an internal office that supports the city. The vision for the office is we will strive to be a premier municipal office of law in the state of Maryland. The office will be a well-respected and reliably focused source for top-notch lawyering and city clerk services, including vigorous legal defense of the city's interests and prosecution of municipal infractions, careful preparation and custody of official, legislative, legal, and legacy documents and records for the benefit of the public, and legislative counsel in drafting. Our mission is to protect and advocate for the legal interests of the city by providing city officials and agencies with timely, responsive, and well-reasoned legal and legislative advice, representation before judicial and quasi-judicial tribunals, and through the city clerk to professionally serve as administrator and custodian of the city's legislative, legal, and legacy records and documents, including management of city elections. The office also provides legal and executive staff support to the standing committees of the city council and the city's various boards and commissions. And the core values are there: professionalism and courtesy, fairness and equity, firmness and decisiveness, honesty and integrity, reason and truth. Next slide, please. Are there any questions on slide 1? Or the first slide I just read? Thank you. The Office of Law has three teams that integrate nicely to perform all the city's required work that we just laid out in our mission. We have our legal team, and it provides the kinds of activities you see there. Our legislative services team, headed by Jacqueline Lee, with support from the legal team, provides the services you see there, mostly legislative drafting, research, advisory services on legislation. And then the city clerk team, which, as you know, provides council support services, records, custody, and publishing, maintenance of the city code, expert advice around the city code, as well as management of some of our larger and more intricate and complicated boards and commissions, including elections, charter revision commission, and alcohol beverage control board administration, which is a huge part of the economy, running the economy in the city. What we are not, we may get confused sometimes with advice and counsel to the citizens and residents. That's not our job, right? We provide advice and counsel to our clients, the city officials, including city council, mayor, departments, and employees and staff who may, have some responsibilities in the public sphere. Any questions? Great. Next slide, please. The goals for our office for this next budget year are pretty simple, and they all flow from the things we've been doing for the last year or two. We, of course, our goal is to provide practical, timely, and vigorous legal representation of city officials, departments, and agencies. And the objectives are there to successfully respond and resolve legal matters and transactions related to the city's interests, produce successful results in all litigation, and provide timely and well-researched legal advice. And we'll have benchmarks and performance measures around those particular goals and that particular goal and those objectives. Goal 2, update the city code. Objective 1 and 2, this is a goal that was established prior to my getting here, but is one that some of the departments who are particularly meeting some of the challenges of the code and operation of the departments, we're supporting those efforts. Objective 1 is to work with interested departments to produce a rewrite and major update of City Code Sections 17, 21, and 22. Objective 2, prepare new legislation consistent with the charter, which comports with legal requirements and eliminates internal code conflicts and inconsistencies. And as you might know from our last year, we've been really kind of focused on that whenever we produce new legislation for the client, city council, and the mayor. Goal 3.
Lyles.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for the speed. We appreciate that because we've been at this for a while. On goal 2, objective 1, first of all, it would be helpful to get a report to us about what exactly is going on there. But I noticed that Title 15 is not there, and I understand that Kevin Scott has basically done a rewrite of that. And also there's things in there that have to do with how we're treating the harbor line, which, as you know, has been topical of late. So can you tell us what is the the status of the revisions to Title 15, if you know?
If it's not on here, it's left off by mistake. It is one we are tracking, but we have yet to have a full-blown meeting about it. But yeah, it is one that is on our agenda. I just need to probably add it, and I will amend the presentation, but it is one we're keeping track of. But we haven't had a meeting on it in a while. Some of our focus with, as you might know from the last year, has been on some very complex legislation in these other areas. And the harbor master, we've had one kind of change to the code, but not a lot has gone on through our office. And I think most of that is in the department level. We have to circle back to them on that.
Interesting you mentioned the harbor master, because in presentations I've heard from her, she actually straddles several different titles, Title 11, I think 12, as well as parts of 15. So maybe that's something, but I guess it would be good to get a sense of what these requests are for changes in all of these titles, maybe a generic overview of what's going on and how we make a determination of what the guiding principles are for making revisions. I know one of the things that you and I have talked about a lot is moving things out of code and into regulations. And we've certainly got some legislation pending on that. But it would be interesting to hear the philosophy, a presentation on the philosophy of what goes where. So I just interject that.
Right. Yeah, that's really going to come from the department. So we're not leading the update of the code other than to ensure that as we get legislative requests or legislative drafting requests, make sure that they're internally consistent and constitutional and consistent with the charter. The updates are really driven by the departments that have to, of course, do some service under those code sections. But we love to assist the departments with that presentation, and we'll try to make it happen. Goal number 3, maintain safe custody of all legal, legislative, and legacy documents and records for the benefit of the public. The objectives there are produce and secure legislative records, collect and maintain legal and legacy documents. Next page, please. And provide hard copy and cloud-based access by the public to records and documents produced, maintained, and secured by the city clerk. And Regina Eldridge is here, our city clerk, and this is really what her team is responsible for on a day-to-day basis. And she does an excellent job at that particular task. I just try to stay out of the way, but they provide a great service to us in that regard. But we are interested in finding new ways, and this is objective number 3, is in recording and storing and maintaining documents that are ever more electronic. And we just don't have enough physical space for paper documents. But it does present an issue for us because we need a budget that helps us with that, one, to investigate the different kinds of services out there, but also to invest in a way that would reduce our need for additional space for these paper documents, but also provides a way for the citizens to access these documents, especially those who may have disabilities and those kinds of things. But we are not a library repository. However, we've been maintaining these documents for a very long time, and so we have a lot of them, but we need to find a new way to get these documents not only recorded, maintained, but also published in a convenient way for the citizens. Goal number 4.
If I could interject there too, I think if we pass the legislation regarding promulgation of rules, this is likely to be a place where the keeper of the rules will be, if I'm understanding things correctly. So that'll be an important new workload.
Yep, all of that is there. We hope that the budget, if not this year, next year, reflects that we need speed, convenience, and we need the ability to access millions of records. And and to really store documents that are right now in paper form and to get those recorded and put in electronic form for ease of access. Goal 4 for our office this year, the next budget year, is the increased voter participation in the 2021 election cycle. Objectives to recruit and train full complement of election judges, as you can see there, secure facilities to hold the elections, reduce wait times, eliminate errors in election results and tabulations, and to publish timely and clear rules and instructions for the public to exercise their voting rights.
Isn't there an objective 6, ensure re-election of the incumbents?
If you want to add it and put some dollars to it, we will make sure it gets done. But no, that's great though. But yeah, these are the 5 major objectives in helping increase voter participation in the election cycle, and all of them, as you know, relate to ease of access, correct tabulation, and timeliness and publication of all the rules and regulations around it. And then we've got to hire and train a lot of part-time staff, which we've already started with 1 part-time person, which you'll see later. Goal 5, provide legal and executive support to city boards and commissions, something that's more important for us as we try to maintain and support the boards and commissions in their meetings. And it's during COVID has been more important because we have had a lot of time associated on the support side with the virtual meetings. And we expect that to change, but we'll continue in face-to-face meetings. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Questions?
Sheila, you're on.
May I ask a quick question, actually, 2? Your goal number 5 speaks to legal and executive support to boards and commissions. Yes. Does that mean, for example, the Education Commission is supposed to, and I'm the last one to add more work to a full plate, but the Education Commission does not get those services. So how is that rendered?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if I can speak to that right now. We have a certain number of boards and commissions that we support, not only with legal advice from our legal team, but also through the city clerk staff. For instance, Cindy Gaines provides support to alcohol beverage. Karen Steele provides support to elections. So we don't have all of them, but we do have some.
Okay.
But the legal team provides legal advice and support, or our office provides legal advice and support either directly or through contract attorneys who provide a conflict counsel to all the boards and commissions and committees.
But they're present largely during the quasi-judicial boards, Planning Commission, Board of Appeals, boards, port wardens, bodies like that have a quasi-judicial responsibility.
But that's not what this goal says, and that's why I was raising the question.
Yeah,
because this goal doesn't distinguish which boards or commissions receives the legal support.
Yeah, the legal support is for all boards and commissions. Whether the legal team that is full-time staff providing it may be different depending on whether or not we would be conflicted out because we represent a department before a board or a commission. But most of our work is advisory to the advisory boards and commissions. With respect to the quasi-judicial, we would be representing departments potentially, and a couple like Harbor Master, one of our able attorneys, Carrie Berger, is the advisor to Harbor Master because we don't appear in front of Harbor Master representing any department.
Okay, thank you. And my other question, which may be a minor one, our agendas seem to be a little confusing these days. Is there, or who codifies what our agendas should be so that we can count on consistency? And I know that part of it is our fault in that we made some changes, a couple of years ago, and we're trying to rectify that. But I just needed to make note that we need some help with our agendas, because.
Well, we'd be happy to talk about that offline.
Okay.
Because I'm not clear on exactly what needs adjustment, but we'd be happy to make whatever adjustments are necessary. But as you know, the council has changed its way of doing and putting items on the agenda. So we'd be happy to talk about it anytime.
Okay, we've had discussions about the council being involved in the creation of the agendas. And I know that's another discussion that will come later. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've got to talk about that because the code doesn't provide that. The code says the clerk, who works for me, provides the agenda. We have adjusted who does it physically, but we have a team of folks that internally we prepare the agenda for the council, and we prepare that for the mayor, and then we have several meetings. If we need to adjust that in any way, we'd be happy to talk about how that gets done and figuring it out. But the code is the code, which is why updates and rewrites and revisions are important, because as things change, you notice you want to be more efficient or more effective. We need to change the code to comport with the way you want to do it. But we'd be happy to talk about it and hopefully make whatever changes need to be made.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair, I have a question as it relates to slide or goal 5.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just quickly. How in the past there have been instances where, as it relates to city attorneys providing legal support to city boards, where we are trying to get, the council is trying to get legal assistance from the city attorneys, and they are also providing legal assistance to boards that are dealing with our legislation, and it creates conflict. So how can that be addressed moving forward?
Well, we advise the council. The council creates the boards and commissions, and we provide the council, the city council, under the charter, creates these boards and commissions to provide independent advice. And so if the council doesn't like something that the boards or commissions are doing or saying, then the city council should get rid of that board or change out the people or adjust its relationship to the city council. Right now, they have the ability to do the things that is set out in the code. And so we just try to ensure that whatever they are doing or advising on or enacting as an independent board or commission comports with the code. The only issue for me is if these boards and commissions are to be independent, that's what the code suggests. And we just try to help all parties maintain that independence. If the need is not to have them be so independent, then the question becomes, why have it? Why have that board or commission? So I'm not really clear, but we will advise our clients. It is our hope that if we're advising the board or commission, we're advising the board or commission with respect to something it's doing or saying. If the council needs advice, we will advise the city council and the members of the city council in a way that is reflective of our responsibility under the code and the responsibility of the council members as it relates to those boards and commissions. But I'm not really sure how else to answer that.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for this slide? Next slide, please. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road for us. All of that was just the underpinning of how we get to these numbers. But it's our hope that through the course of understanding our office and what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing and how we're doing it, and we think we're doing an excellent job at it, that the budget for our office will reflect our needs and requests going forward. Salaries and benefits, as you can see, I'll just go right to the proposed and just deal with that and deal with any questions that you might have. Salaries and benefits, we have 9 full-time employees. We have one part-time employee who is helping with staffing election operations for this year. And the total for that is $1,352,100 plus contractual services, which is mainly our outside legal counsel who are being paid to provide services when we are conflicted out as the internal legal team. And the price for those services is $148,200, and it comprises really 4 law firms right now. One is doing police trial boards. One law firm is providing advice and counsel to the Board of Appeals, and one law firm is providing advice and counsel to Planning Commission and several other quasi-judicial boards and commissions where we are conflicted out. And we have contract services for bond work as well. And we just really ended work with respect to a pension issue that we had in finance, but we don't anticipate any more legal fees related to that. And then the big item for us is really what we can control on a day-to-day basis is supplies and other. We propose $54,600 for a total of Office of Law budget of $1.554 million. And we have had some savings. And you'll see a difference in the FY 2020 actuals, original, adjusted, mainly because I think I was added and we had some, but with no real changes in salary and benefits. And we did have some savings in contractual services because one of our goals last year was to reduce the number of outside counsels and the rates we were paying. And we did a great job of culling some of that, as well as renegotiating our rates and taking more of the responsibilities in-house. And this will be reflected in our future goals and requests because we think it is better to have our attorneys in-house doing a lot of the work as opposed to outside contract counsel unless it's absolutely necessary. Any questions? The other big thing.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Council members, I really can't see everybody. So if you want to ask a question, just jump in.
It's Alderwoman Tierney. I just wanted to emphasize that point, and it shouldn't be missed, Mr. Lyles, that you have evaluated that your in-house resources are more economical than using consultants. And we should keep that in mind when we are looking at your proposed revised salary. You've done your homework, if you will, in realizing that, and it's an important point.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we think that it's better for most of our attorneys to be in-house, and we will try to contain the ballooning of our salaries and benefits, but we will in one of our goals, and as you've seen, because you received this prior to, we are asking for one more lawyer because of the way that the office was managed. We are trying to turn that boat around, but we do have some expertise in areas, and we need expertise in other areas. And I find myself engaged in courtroom cases in the courtroom more than I probably need to be as the city attorney. But I'm pitching in right now. We probably need one other lawyer so I don't have to be in court as much. But we appreciate that. Thank you, Alderman Tierney.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Next slide. This is the kind of the breakdown. And as you can see, salaries and benefits, legal services. And we trimmed off about $20,000 off of the legal services, as you can see there. And I took it upon myself, because I know how much legal services cost, to renegotiate legal rates for some of our lawyers because they were extremely high. We were hiring lawyers with rates as high as $500 an hour. And for a municipality with a constrained budget and tight economic times, that's almost unheard of. And we wanted to cull some of the numbers of outside counsels so that we could get control of their fees and could manage them better. So we have, for conflict counsel, we only have 2, as opposed to, I think, 6 in the past. Postage, we think will remain the same, but postage and telephone was really increased. Telephone was increased this year because we had to get cell phones for all of our employees who were working at home for many, many months. We think that will continue for some period of time. But if we go back to full time in the office and no telework, then some of our employees will not need phones, cell phones, and laptops, and so we'll take some of that back. So there's a reduction there. Supplies is always a big issue for us. We have a very old copier. We probably need a new copier. We're asked to copy more than we've ever copied before, and our supplies we expect to remain the same as last year. Training and education is one of those issues. I know it gets cut a lot, but we'd like that to stay at level, if not be increased. One of the ways in which we can be more effective is if I bring in new attorneys or the attorneys that are already here that did not get the training that they needed to be able to take some of these cases and matters back in house. I think it's money well spent, as opposed to spending for $350 an hour for 100 hours worth of work. If we train our attorneys to do the work, then you can save money. Dues and memberships. Similarly, we're paying for licensures and memberships in the various bar associations, some of the mandatory, as well as we're taking some of these federal cases back in-house, and that requires federal licensing and federal memberships to the federal bar and the federal courts in the various jurisdictions. We're even being sued in other states, and so we may need money for that. And then legal charges and services. That's pretty much all of the books that we buy, the codes. We pay for LexisNexis and those kind of things. Legal Edge, which helps us keep track of our matters. And that material is expensive, but it's well worth it. It helps us get our research done in a quick way, and we're not really asking for an increase there. All right, next slide. Our accomplishments this year. The budget reflects the fact that even though we're containing the costs in the budget and containing the increase, we probably could use more resources. And if you look at the accomplishments, we accomplished a lot with a constrained budget. We negotiated lower hourly rates and significantly reduced the use of contract attorneys. In 2021, the Office of Law paid $54,544 in outside counsel fees as compared to $161,000 in the previous fiscal year. We saved the city $106,000. That's a whole nother lawyer, right? A successful resolution of some major cases, some of those in federal court and some in our state courts. And as you can see, the names are there. We've got defense verdicts in 3. And we settled and resolved the HACA litigation in federal court, we think in a way that was produced some benefits for not only the plaintiffs, but all parties concerned. We drafted 91 ordinances, 74 resolutions, 2 charter amendments, reduced the time between municipal infractions and going to court. We began the municipal primary and general election process. We had a lot of work around COVID and supporting what the city manager and the mayor were doing with respect to everything related to public safety, health, and welfare under COVID. We undertook litigation against the fossil fuel industry, no cost to the city, through counsel that we have retained. And we prepared legal documents for Port Williams property acquisition and the lease to the CRAB. Next slide.
Mr. Lyles?
Yes, sir. Slide back.
No, it's not on the slide. So I wanted to ask, what is the status of our opioid suit?
We're going to have a briefing next week by Mr. Joe Gormley. Currently, the lawsuit has been taken out of state court and is in what's called multi-district. A circuit court in Ohio, the federal circuit out there, has really taken the case and all the cases from around the country into its circuit. And there is some discovery going on between the parties, but the court has really kind of stymied the matters from moving forward until some of the matters related to removal have been answered and briefed. And so we're just kind of waiting to see what they're going to do. The court, because of COVID, hasn't done a lot with the case. And so it's kind of at a standstill right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. City Attorney and Mr. Chair, I had a question too.
Please.
It was on the last slide, but I didn't have a chance to jump in.
Slide back, please.
As it related to, you were speaking about bringing things more in-house, doing a lot more work there, and the request of an additional attorney. If not granted the attorney, would it be helpful if you had actual dollars to get college, students that are actually in college for law of various, various topics, so that they could assist as well if you aren't granted the full attorney?
Yes, that would be helpful as well. Whenever we could get them on staff, we had talked about in the last budget year doing that as well, but COVID kind of put a stop to that for the budget. But yeah, we would take whatever help we could get, and we think we could get a lot out of law clerks and legal interns and law students, more so than college students. And even lawyers who might be interested in public service kind of work, who wanted to work part-time doing this work. We could probably get a lot out of them, 10, 15, 20 hours a week, for much, much lower costs to help us with research, to help us with drafting. We could get a lot out of a little bit of money there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Certainly, of course.
Mr. Lyles, I think I heard you say that we have a lawsuit from out of state.
Yes, we were sued by an individual who was claiming that we were billing him inappropriately for his water usage. And the individual filed suit in federal court in the District of Columbia. And we can discuss the details of that at any time. But yes, so we were being sued in DC.
Thank you. We used to get periodic updates from the law department as to the status of cases. So I think it would be helpful if that would start again. Thank you. We are happy, ready, willing, and able to give those updates. You let us know. I don't really control your schedule, but we'd be happy to show up whenever you ask for those updates. Okay. Thank you much.
No problem.
You don't control our schedule? Who does that? Please go ahead.
Yes, next slide, please. Unbudgeted Office of Law expenses. Again, we had the $2,000 additional requested for telephone expenses. Again, we thought it was incumbent. thought it was incumbent upon me to manage our work by making sure we were not using employees' personal cell phones and personal computers. And so we wanted to make sure that they had all the equipment they needed to respond to client requests for service. And it was very efficient, very effective. $1,000 additional, again, for dues and memberships for new legal staff, meaning myself. I came on and needed dues and memberships paid. And then $1,000 additional was requested for copier expenses as a result of unforeseen copy needs. Copier breaks down at least twice a year. That's kind of the additional requests we put in that were not funded. Next slide, please. Cost containment strategy for next year for outside counsel expenses. Again, just really kind of paying attention to the work that all the lawyers are doing. I see every invoice and manage the hours, if not direct the work. I can't in some conflict situations, but I do review all the invoices and approve all the contracts and approve all the work. But when the boards and commissions who need outside counsel, if they have tendency to have a lot of meetings, we can't really judge that from month to month. So we have to kind of move dollars around to make sure the attorneys can service those boards and commissions. Continued requests by me that all departments, city entities and commissions cease engaging outside lawyers. That's our job, in my view, and we will engage the lawyers, find the lawyer, hire the lawyer, and provide them for the board and commission and manage their work. Office of Law established a base municipal rate for contract legal services, which is $250 an hour maximum. Office of Law assumes responsibility for hiring with the approval of the mayor and management of all the conflict counsel. Office of Law works to manage the board and commission client expectations. And what we've tried to do so that we wouldn't blow our budgets is to make sure that for some of the boards and commissions, if you didn't need an attorney in every meeting because the topic being discussed was not necessarily legal, then we would, have the attorneys kind of back off. And just a way to contain costs. We'd like for the attorney to be at every board and commission, but some of the boards and commissions topics and agendas didn't have anything to do with the law at a particular time. And so we had lawyers kind of sitting around for hours and getting paid. And so we wanted to try to limit that if we could. Next slide.
Mr. Lyles, staying on that point, I just wanted to mention how good it has been to have Ashley Leonard with the police and fire pension. We were paying a lot of money. I think we now we're getting very good advice, and it is another cost saving, but it's nice to have an in-house person there to advise us on that pension board.
Great, thank you for that. We like having all of our attorneys engage with all the commissions and boards, and they try to attend all the meetings. And, it's been good for us because we kind of know the issues before they come up by attending the meetings. And should legal issues come up, we're not in the dark when a problem arises, and we can advise appropriately. So we appreciate that. Glad to be a part of the team. Next slide. Elections budget. This is the next big budget item for us because we have to manage the whole elections process. And Ms. Eldridge can talk some detail about it if you have questions, but these are the numbers. Salaries and benefits related to the person that we've hired, part-time, contractual services, because we contract with outside entities as well as other governments in Arundel County, et cetera, to provide some of the services. And then supplies, ballots, and other items that we may need to purchase. We do have an MOU that we're processing with Anne Arundel County and the State Board of Elections to handle some of the work for us. And we're working as a team. However, the budget is here in case any of those expenses fall back on us. We are ultimately responsible for that. If other governments choose to assume some of those costs, we can be very, very happy, but we don't budget that way. We budget in the worst case scenario. We have to take all of these upon ourselves. If we have to do it by ourselves, the MOU doesn't get processed as we expect, then all of these costs are going to be borne by us, and we need a budget to take care of those. And as you can suspect, as you might suspect, all of the election arrangements are done by us, managed by us, even if we have a team from Anne Arundel County or the state assisting in some parts of that. And Regina is here to discuss any of that, but it's pretty much speaks for itself. We have one part-time person, and we also have to hire election judges and others who we pay on the days that they're needed to be at the polling sites. And also we have to train them, and we pay for that, the time that they're in training. Any questions? All righty. Next slide, please.
Yes, I had a quick question. I thought the county was taking over some of those responsibilities. Have they? And is this just the limited responsibilities that we are still obligated to, perform for the election?
Well, the county and the city are working through an MOU right now, but that MOU is not complete, and an MOU is not a contract. It is just an understanding. And should any part of that fall away, or the county decide it can't support it or pay for something, we are ultimately responsible and should have money set aside to pay for whatever is necessary, from soup to nuts. It is our hope that, as in the past, some of those costs get assumed by another team entity, but we can't budget that way. We have to budget for the worst case scenario, which is we are going to be responsible for paying for everything that we need to have a city election.
Mr. Chair, I don't know whether you can see my hand.
No, I didn't.
Okay, I'm putting it down now. I do have a question. I guess it's for Ms. Eldridge or Mr. Lyle. So this number, this 343.3, is conclusive of everything. You said from soup to nuts, or vice versa. Ballots, mailing, the whole bit.
Yes. Publications, advertisements, anything and everything, signage, election materials, the voting booths themselves, assuming we don't get those from somewhere else, drop boxes, if we go in that route, absentee ballots, postage related to that as well.
Prior to the last election, and it may not have been your municipal election, at least I went on a tour, several of us went on a tour of the Board of Elections in Glen Burnie, I guess it is. And they have seriously strict security guidelines. Will we have access to those security measures, or is that part of what's being negotiated? And if it's not agreed upon, is still this cost inclusive of everything?
Yes, it is. It is our hope that we can agree and negotiate security measures as well. Regina, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think the best person to speak on the MOU would be Ashley, because she is actually in contact with the county's representative for the Board of Elections, and she is the go-between for the current MOU with the exhibits attached. The board is going to be meeting in the month of May to actually go through all of the details of the MOU with the attachments and start the process of signing off on the MOU. Once that is done, we will provide the council with a copy of the MOU. But I think Ashley's the better person to ask for the details, because she is the city's attorney representing the board for the elections.
Yeah, this number these numbers, in addition to what we added, were provided by the county. And they always indicate to us that we're ultimately responsible for all the costs. And so these are all the costs that were estimated by us and the county together as we've been preparing and discussing the MOU.
Okay, we have talked in the past about early voting. Have we gone beyond a deadline where that is a possible option?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are we going to hear from Ashley, or can she give us an update when, I guess, when the MOU is agreed upon?
Yeah, we'll be ready to provide whatever update whenever you want it.
Okay.
The next slide really does give some more information.
Next slide, please. Yep. The main thing is that since 2014, we really haven't done everything in the same way. So everything has kind of been different. So we really don't have a pattern within which to decide these budgets. So the budget number, the 343, was really developed by the county and us, their folks, and our team working together.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Long-term goals for office, FY22 to FY25. Goal one, we've talked about this, hiring a new attorney to assist in prosecuting municipal infractions, and we get quite a few of those, and district court matters generally, collections, administration, and legislation advisory services. We need someone to kind of help stay on top of all the legislation, updates of the code, and those kinds of things. Assume responsibility for all labor contract negotiation and execution issues. That's goal number 2. We had hired a law firm at about $400 or $500 an hour to help us with contract negotiations. We will be coming up to negotiate contracts starting this year for the next fiscal year. Goal 3, further reduce outside legal contracts. But we're getting some help, some good services with bond issuances and workers' comp and legal conflicts right now. Shouldn't need too many changes there. Expand office space. We have 10 people. We're kind of on top of each other, along with all of our resources and books and library and conference room, which we really don't have right now because we have our part-time elections staff member using our conference room. Wasn't a big problem during COVID, but as we get back to face-to-face meetings and full time in office, we just need more space. And we have several types of activities that we do that are external, including elections and alcohol, beverage control, licensing, and other kind of external things that we do outside of the office for the public. Complete city code updates, section 17, 21, 22, and potentially 15, as we discussed earlier. Goal 6, continue to implement new document retention policies. We've got a lot of old papers that need to be scanned in and put into the cloud so that we can recall those documents easier. And then establish an overtime budget for civil service staff members. As you know from my constant pushing on this, we have staff members who are attending evening meetings and doing work on the weekends. And for those of us on the staff who currently don't have an overtime budget, I have to adjust their daytime work schedule and provide comp time, which we really don't have, nor do we have overtime. So I'm kind of pushing on our clients to help me monitor that so that we don't get in a situation where we're having people work who are in this category more hours than they're supposed to work without being paid. So we would like for them to be paid. So we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about that, and you'll see these kinds of requests in future budgets. Next slide.
Goal 4.
Yes.
Are we having an addition to City Hall?
Not that I know of. This was on my last year's budget as well. I knew it would, it's getting tight here in our office. And if we bring on another attorney right now, we have nowhere for that person to sit. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that. Even if we bring on summer folks or interns, we really don't have anywhere for them to be doing their work, especially if we have more than one. So that's an issue for us. So I just want the powers that be to see that, there is a need for additional personnel, which means additional space. And we can definitely talk about it and hopefully, come to some accommodation. But right now, it is going to be an issue for us.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Yeah, Mr. Lyles, could you elaborate on goal number 2, what exactly that means, assume responsibility for all labor contract negotiation and execution issues versus what you do now?
Yeah, we had an outside firm doing that work in the past for about $450 an hour. I have experience with labor negotiations and labor contracts, having done that work in private practice. And so I believe we can take some of that work in-house as well as get training for our current staff to be able to handle these kinds of contracts. Because labor, it's federal law, but it's also contract law. and it's also administrative law, all in one. But with some training, I think our staff can do this work. And you know, and we've got a great staff that can negotiate these kinds of things, and we do it all the time. But the specific area of labor is something that I think my staff needs a little more training, and I hope to get that training. And again, that's a request for the staying where we are with education and training.
I also want to congratulate you by expanding office space by putting a wall, making two.
Yes, our large library.
Oh yeah, I've got a pass.
Room. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my hand's up.
Okay.
Can't see. But my question was about goal number 2 also. Assuming all responsibility is what it says. Is this at the exclusion of the HR department? Because right now, Ms. Hopkins has a great deal of experience in various forms of negotiations, which I'm hope we will explore as we have in the past. So is that what that is speaking to, assuming all labor contract negotiation issues?
Well, yeah, when I'm talking about that, I mean the legal side of it, not the human resources side of it, or the administration side. We're a team, and what I was talking about there is responsibility for all parts of the legal side that we had, farmed out.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. I think that's my only question. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have a point to the goal that he had in regards to expanding office space. Well, couldn't the Office of Law, considering the building across the street can't hold a second floor, they could just have the entire bottom floor. They can have their own law space in the place that the city is fixing up across the street. David, maybe just take that into consideration. I think that'd be perfect for law.
Actually, I think they were thinking about overtaking your cubicle upstairs.
They can have the cubicle space and we take the space across the street. Somebody should just utilize it.
Coordinate with Alderwoman Finlayson on that. That's been discussed before.
Yeah, they were over in that building at one point.
And it is my understanding from staff that we also may have been, as a city, in some rented space down on Main Street.
Yeah, you were right next to Mills Liquors.
Right.
Very convenient.
And I've seen that space.
Over the bank.
And I've seen that space from the outside only, but it looks like it has sufficient space. But it may be something that we could rent until we can buy appropriate space or make appropriate renovations. This is not something that we are, of course, in charge of, but it is a request by me that the city start to look at how I can have sufficient space for all of my staff, as well as all of the administrative tasks that we have been tasked to undertake.
I think it would be probably minimally acceptable, very minimally, because there is not a lot of room up there, but maybe enough for a brief sojourn.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the space over there and see, but it is something I'd like for the council and the mayor, the city manager, to keep in mind for our office. Thank you. Next slide.
Jody, they can't see you.
Okay. I've been raising my hand. Nobody can see
Sorry.
me.
Nope.
Sorry, I don't have a hand thing on my Zoom.
Okay.
For some reason.
Well, I don't have a hand thing on mine either that I can see. And my picture's up, but you can't all see all the pictures. So I don't know whether to, and it's not a critical part of the presentation, but to back up what he says and put in my 2 cents, we have 19 people in this side of finance, in this space. And that's something that I've been talking to the city manager about. We don't have enough space. And if I even think about bringing somebody in to help with workload, I have nowhere to put them. And, we have 19, they have 9. I say, yep, we need more space. We're crammed into a too small space here. And if they want to move out and go to other space, we'll be glad to take the space over there and spread out to the Office of Law space, because we are just we have nothing here. We have nothing. We don't even have desk space for temps or anything. So anyways, this is me over here lamenting my situation as well. Thank you for allowing me to.
Yep.
All right. I can't see everybody. So if there are follow-up questions, now is the time.
Mr. Chair, could I just make a comment?
I think you just did. You want to do another?
Yeah. With the risk of sounding, I don't know, I think that this presentation was one of the best ones we've had. It followed the budget from evaluating, performance measures right to the line items in the budget, sort of a 2-for-1 there. And I just thought it was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Did I see any other? I don't see any other hands. Well, again, yes, I'll echo Alderwoman Tierney's comments. This was very well organized and very informative, and we certainly appreciate the presentation, and it'll help us a lot with our deliberations. And I think the city manager will take you to the woodshed afterwards for your request for more space and people.
Well, I made the request last year. It's we're a team, and we just got to think through these things. And we're giving you value for every dollar that you put in the Office of Law. You're making a lot of money because you're saving a lot of money because the work that the whole team here has put in. I've got 9 great people. They've been doing a lot of great work, and we can look to continue doing that.
Yep.
And the unfortunate fact is that 145 Gorman's the same way. If we would have hired a traffic engineer for Public Works, there was no place to put that employee. So it's similar over there as well. And maybe we should relook at the old Capitol Gazette building, right?
Yeah, that would have solved some things. Maybe we should take back the old rec center.
Too late.
And we've invested a lot here with this cashier window here, and we also have a vault room that locks pretty handily. So that's a lot of investment for the finance office here. That's a tough thing to recreate somewhere else, but we're bursting at the seams here. If
you have $2 million, Ross, you can live over the garage of the rec center, I think.
Well,
maybe not that much, sorry.
Or maybe we just take over Hillman Garage and not have parking there.
Or just maybe we could include in the design. I mean, is it too late to go add a little modification, a back office or something on the other side? I mean, what if the city really does have to expand and we don't have the room for staff? It sucks to rent. I did notice in the budget there was $12,000 of rent for one thing on the Parks and Rec, and I'm like, what could they be renting for $12,000?
Do you live in Annapolis?
Yeah, no, sounds like a bargain, right? All right. Again, thank you for the presentation. And at this point, Alderman Payon has rejoined us. Is there any other thing for the good of the order, or are we ready for a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, have we confirmed the schedule going forward? Has it been codified? I thought I saw something.
I believe so. We should probably let Alderman Payon know what we agreed to in his absence. But Fred, your wish is granted. We will not be having a meeting next Tuesday morning. That schedule, the meeting for that has been pushed into Wednesday. So we will be having a meeting at 6 o'clock Tuesday evening to meet with police, fire, and Public Works. Alderman Gay has indicated that he would like to have maybe another meeting to discuss some things with the other departments, and I'm certainly open to that. I like having these discussions prior to the Finance Committee making its final recommendations, and I think that it is time well spent because it's time we don't spend during the major budget deliberations when we're approving the budget. So we can certainly entertain that as well.
Mr. Chair, may I also add, maybe we should come up with some standards by which to measure the amendments that are going to be coming. For example, is it saleable? Is it affordable? Is it legal? You know, the normal standards that we come up with so that we can determine, you know, the amendments that have stronger, you know, I don't want to say merit, but meet those standards. So maybe we have to come up with a process is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also want to hearken back to a principle that the council established a long time ago. And I think it's a good principle, which is we're basically here to approve the overall budget for the departments, and we rely on each of the directors' professional judgment, how the details go. So we don't really want to engage in micromanagement. It's good to know the details, and it is always appropriate to ask questions about things like plantings or something like that. And that's why we have the new open government system, which again, kudos to the director and to Katie. That's quite a tool. And I haven't even begun to realize the full potential of that tool, but that is not an invite to get down on the light item level of detail to question the allocation. I think we need to rely on the department heads to do that appropriately with the guidance and oversight of both the city manager and the finance director. But so I think getting into a really small level of detail is probably not something to be encouraged. Obviously, each elected member is an elected member with full powers as an elected member to execute their job the way they see fit. But it could be a long, long process if we're going to get into low levels of detail. That's all I'll say on that topic.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the city attorney.
Please.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, the code does permit, I'm not 100% sure, but it does say that the council passes the budget. And I'm assuming that a part of that process is making amendments, correct?
It is.
And so we are not elected to get the proposed budget and just stamp it and say, this is it.
Whatever you do with the budget is within your authority under the charter.
Okay, thank you.
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned.